This is our news, the weekend edition, and on the broadcast tonight. Extreme delays. The national airline experiencing technical challenges with one of its jets, leaving passengers stranded for several hours. Plus, find out what the Electrical Workers Union president has to say on the new BPL board. And the final curtain closes on a cultural legend.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Knowles, and thanks so much for joining us. Off the top tonight, the country's national fly carrier, Bahamas Air, experiencing a significant volume of delays, leaving passengers stranded and irate. In some cases, passengers were stuck for as much as 8 hours. In a statement, the airline notes that as a result of technical challenges related to one of its jets, it's been experiencing extreme delays since yesterday, and the problem could continue today. Well, in this video making the rounds on social media, an agent tells Bahamas Air customers that their flight has been delayed, sending passengers into an uproar.
208, the flight is delayed until 3:30 this morning.
You got to be joking. You know. That 3:30.
No. 3:30 in the morning. No.
Several customers also voiced their frustrations on social media. One passenger says, "My flight was for 4:40 p.m. It's now 12:02 a.m. and I'm still at Miami International Airport with my newborn and my daughter. Bahamas Air has to be the worst. I swear I'm done with them." Another person gave this piece of advice: if you're traveling tomorrow from Miami, Fort Lauderdale, or Orlando on Bahamas Air, better call your boss now to tell them you're not coming in on Monday. Now, the airline has asked those traveling on Bahamas Air today to contact them to confirm whether their flight had been impacted by any of these issues, which may help to avoid any further inconvenience. Well, the country mourning the loss of yet another cultural icon. Playwright, poet, and actor James Catlin passed away yesterday. He was 78. He kept Bahamian and international audiences entertained for decades by writing about the unique aspects of Bahamian life and culture. In fact, he was at the forefront in writing political and social satire and regarded as one of the trailblazers in the preservation of the Bahamian dialect, for which he coined the term Bahamianese. For more than 30 years, James Catlin and Friends has been the leading troupe in ethnic Bahamian theater through their popular stage production, Summer Madness. Catlin retired as a tourism executive from the Ministry of Tourism in 2000 after 32 years of employment. Well, opposition leader Philip Davis among the first offering condolences on the passing of James Catlin. In a statement, Davis hailed the PLP stalwart councillor as a patriot with a biting wit, which he took to the stage. Davis said, "You made the whole Bahamas laugh. Now it's time to bring that laughter to heaven." He noted that Catlin's passing comes just a few weeks before his annual Summer Madness stage play. Davis added that Catlin had a storied career in the Ministry of Tourism, where he brought his talents and patriotism to the country's tourism product. Well, in other news this evening, now that the new board of the Bahamas Power and Light has been appointed, Bahamas Electrical Workers Union President Paul Maynard says the 6 members have a lot of work to get done. Speaking with our news, Maynard says the company has got a lot of reorganization to do, particularly after the recent VSEB exercise where many in senior management at the company took packages.
We had a bunch of senior people left the company, and we kind of involved in a crisis mode, and it needs to be, the gaps got to be filled so we can move the company forward.
Last week, in an unprecedented move, the government asked the now former board to step down. Now heading the new board is Dr. Donovan Moxey. Ron Bethel, who served on the previous board, was reappointed. He and Moxey are joined by Stephen Holoesco, who will serve as deputy chairman, James Moss, Deborah Wood, and Vienna Gardner, who was also recently appointed head of the deliverables unit in the office of the Prime Minister. back in January. Works Minister Desmond Bannister has remained silent on the matter since asking the previous board to resign, 3 of whom refused. The Bahamas Electrical Workers Union president said he had a good working relationship with BPL's former chairman, Darnell Osborne. However, he said he won't question the government's decision.
It's the Prime Minister's prerogative to do what he wants. I'm not second guessing the Prime Minister. It is what it is. He dealt me a card of hands, and I have to play the cards. It's, as president, I got to play the card of hands to get the best possible deal I could get for my members. That's my primary thing. That's my primary concern.
So what exactly is that gripe Maynard has with the management structure at BPL?
The fact of the matter is, I was very concerned about them bringing in all these people from Freeport and everywhere else, over senior people that have the institutional experience. And what needs to happen is that needs to be halted right away. As a matter of fact, some of those $8,000 to $10,000 people need to be out of here because you said that you were trying to save money. All right, you spent all this money on a VSEP to save money. Now you're bringing in people as consultants and you're paying them $8,000 to $10,000 a month. That's ridiculous.
Former opposition leader Loretta Butler Turner speaking out against government's decision to move ahead with the purchase of the Grand Lucayan. However, she says she's also against the suggestion to purchase the Port Authority. Our Jillian Gray reports.
Former opposition leader Loretta Butler Turner says while the government must consider all its options to revitalize Grand Bahama's ailing economy, purchasing the Grand Lucayan is not the way to do it.
The amount of money that Hutchinson has been pouring into Grand Lucayan each year just to keep it open without realizing any profit, they've been operating at a loss. I don't see how the government would find the funding and the correct equation of persons to run that hotel, that they won't make that same mistake. That's why I do not believe that purchasing that hotel is going to be in the best interest of the Bahamian people.
This week, the Nassau Guardian reported that the government is eyeing a mortgage to purchase the $65 million hotel. That mortgage does not include the approximate $50 million to renovate the hotel. Butler Turner said the big question is where the funds would be coming from, and she agreed with Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, who said yesterday that governments should not be in the hotel business.
Clearly, government is very poor at running businesses, and a hotel of that magnitude, which needs a huge injection of funds, the only question I would want to ask myself, or the public should know, is where would these funds be coming from, knowing that we are in such an economic situation at this time?
She added that Moody's negative outlook on the economy is evidence enough that the government should not purchase the hotel.
You just need to look at what Moody's said this past week with regards to our economy. Moody's, even though they have remained at the same rating, they gave us a negative outlook, which clearly demonstrates that with all of the taxes that the government is taking in, with everything that the government is doing, we still are not seeing any forward growth and development from the plans that the government has laid out.
The former cabinet minister also cast doubt over the government's ability to attract visitors to the hotel. As for former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram's suggestion that the government should purchase the Port Authority, Butler Turner said she's not sure the Minnis administration would be able to successfully run that entity either.
The Port Authority has 3 major shareholders, 2 families and Hutchinson Whampoa. At the end of the day, if you can't get those 3 to come together and to a common understanding, I don't see how the government's going to get in the midst of that to purchase it without nationalizing it. There is not sufficient capacity within government to run that and to run the national affairs of the country. So I wouldn't really agree with that.
The Prime Minister promised full disclosure once that deal is done. Reporting for our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
All right, thanks a lot, Jillian. CEO of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation, Edison Sumner, says government should work to find local investors to purchase the Grand Lucayan Resort. Sumner says he opposes government's planned purchase of the resort.
The government ought to stay out of doing business like that. They should be the ones to regulate, create the environment for business to be done, and let the private sector be the ones to drive this. So I would encourage the government to perhaps look within if they haven't done so. I don't know what the inner workings are. Don't know what level they've gone to secure a purchaser for that property. But I would suggest begin looking inward. You might be surprised to find the number of persons in this country who might have an interest in owning and operating hotel properties around this country.
Sumner says he was under the impression that government was seeking to reduce the number of state-owned enterprises in the country.
We were at a stage, I thought, through some recent discussions that we certainly had with some persons who were in the country conducting some consultations and studies, that we were at a point where we were trying to reduce the number of state-owned enterprises that the government has, whether they're utility companies or other state-owned enterprises. If the government acquires this property, then the hotel becomes another state-owned enterprise. All right? And I thought that the idea was that we were moving away from that, and perhaps now being able to offer more of these state-owned enterprises to private sector for them to be able to come in, to partner with the government, and to acquire property, etc., and work them and operate them on behalf of the government. So, but it's my view generally that I think it's not a move that I support, certainly, with the government moving to acquire this property.
As the government committee on marijuana is in its early stages, 2 former parliamentarians from Grand Bahama are sounding off on whether the controversial plant should be legalized. Our Jared Higgs has that report.
2 former Grand Bahama parliamentarians say they support legalizing medical marijuana. However, former Housing Minister Kenneth Russell says the buck stops there for him.
This term medical marijuana seems to be mixed up with the freedom to use marijuana, okay? Like making marijuana legal, making it not a criminal act anymore. No, I think that if we're going to use medical marijuana for medical use, it should be done according to medical laws, where you take the marijuana in different labs, you extract the medical properties from the marijuana, and you make medicine from that, whether it's pills or whether it's a liquid medicine, whether it's a rubbing, whatever it is, you make it from that, but not make marijuana legal. I don't agree with marijuana being making legal.
On the other hand, former Marco City MP Greg Moss says the medicinal benefits of marijuana are well proven, and now is the time to start the debate on legalizing recreational marijuana use.
But move to the other discussion, recreational uses of marijuana. And this is the one that everyone wants to shy away from, and they want to sneak up on by saying it's medical. But they're really talking about recreational. They're trying to say, under the guise of medicine, let us legalize recreational use, and you should then be able to go to your doctor and get a prescription for a joint. That's a more difficult discussion, but let's have it. There are many places in this world, like in Holland, like in different cafes that are opening up in the US, where you can do that. And we should have that discussion. I personally believe that anything that we look at that level, we should look at as a test subject within our country. And Grand Bahama happens to be, in the city of Freeport, happens to be a nice place to do test projects like that.
A CARICOM Regional Commission on Marijuana recently recommended that member states end marijuana prohibition and treat the plant the same as alcohol or tobacco. Both gentlemen also weighed in on that suggestion.
In fact, many people comment about how, well, they made liquor legal. Well, I wasn't around then. I didn't have a say in that, okay? And what I met here when I was born, okay, I blame my parents and grandparents for that. I can't blame me. But what I leave here for my children, I will have to blame, they will be blaming me for it. What I put in place, I will be blamed for it. So I got no problem with marijuana being used for medical purposes.
As a question, I would see that as being the same as, do we legalize or not legalize alcohol? We never took it as being that distinction, either it's legal or illegal. We said it's legal, but subject to these qualifications. Age limit, not within proximity to these establishments, not open during these hours or during these times of your election, and so on. And we put in place qualifications. I think the same thing should happen at a test level with recreational uses of marijuana.
We also got feedback from members of the public in Grand Bahama. Most people we spoke with could envision a future with medical marijuana, but not as many supported recreational use.
If it's a medical purpose, legalize it. But otherwise, I don't think marijuana serves no good purpose.
Just free the herb, no medical purpose, all this business. Where we can have free access to it.
Marijuana is not a new plant to the Bahamas. And we could dice it up and put it in all kind of form, but it still carry the same poison.
I don't feel like it should be legalized for that purpose. And on the other hand, I look at people who are sick and have cancer and really need and the drug could really help them. So on the other hand, I am yes for that.
Former Prime Minister Perry Christie and former Governor General Arthur Folkes have both vocalized their support for medical marijuana, with Folkes saying that the plant should also be legalized for recreational purposes. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks a lot, Jared. We will take our first break here, but still ahead tonight. Body cams for police officers. The National Security Minister gives an update on this project. Plus, the process to fully computerize the Immigration Department expected to be complete by next month. Those stories and more coming up when Our News returns.